kind of talk you guys through the worksheet so that you guys are ready for that quiz. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at this. So first thing I want you to do is find Unit 4 Notes 1. I'm going to let you use that on your quiz. So go ahead and have that out because it's going to be a good reference. So first of all, number 1 asks us to find the area of a pentagon. So if you look at the back of that note sheet, it tells you that a pentagon has 5 sides. Okay, so then if you look at that sheet, we already calculated out the sum of the measures of the interior angles for a pentagon. So using your note sheet, you can just tell that it's 540 degrees because we already put that on the note sheet. So hopefully you took good notes on that and you didn't lose it because you can use it on this quiz. So let's take a look at number 2. Find the measures of each interior angle for a regular heptagon. So I look at the back of the sheet and it says that a heptagon means 7. So I know I have 7 sides. So then I look and I find the formula for the measure of an interior angle. The measure of the interior angle you calculate using this formula, divided by n. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to plug in 7 for n. So I have 180 times 7 minus 2 divided by 7. So that gives me 180 times 5 divided by 7. So now I'm just going to enter that in my calculator. I suggest you do it with me so you make sure you get the right answer. So I'm going to do 180 times 5 divided by 7. So then it asks us to find the measure of each interior angle. Well, that's going to be 128.57. So 128.57 degrees for each interior angle of a heptagon. The next question asks us to do it for a decagon. Again, looking at that chart on the back side of notes 1, a decagon means 10. So exterior angle. So the formula for the exterior angle is to just take 360 and divide it by n. So to get the measure of the angle for that one, all you're going to do for the exterior angle is you're going to take, 360 and divide it by n. So that's the formula given to us on our sheet. Well, we know our n is 10. So we're going to do 360 divided by 10. And when you do that, you get 36 degrees. So the measure of each exterior angle is 36 degrees. Let's take a look at number 4. If the interior angles of a regular polygon are each 157.5, how many sides does the figure have? Okay, so we know to get the measure of the interior angle, we have to do the following. So to get the measure of the interior angle, we're going to have to do 180 times n. So we're going to have to do 180 times n minus 2 divided by n. So that's the formula for the interior angle. That has to be equal to 157.5. So now I need to solve this for n. So to do that, since this is being divided by n, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to multiply both sides by n. That cancels that out. So now I have 180 times n minus 2 is equal to 157.5 n, because that's what happens when you multiply the two of them. So the next thing I want to do is distribute in this 180. So I get 180 n minus 360 is equal to 157.5 n. Now I want to get this a positive 180 n over to the other side. So since it's positive, I'm going to subtract 180. So then I get negative 360 is equal to negative 22.5 n. So the last thing I need to do is solve that for n. So I'm going to divide both sides by a negative 0.225. And I'm glad they're both negative because that means they'll cancel to a positive, because we don't want to have a negative amount of sides. That means we've done something wrong. So then when you do that, you end up getting 16 sides. So there's 16 sides of an angle that has an interior angle measure of 157.5 degrees. Taking a look at number 5, it says find the value of x. So all of those are exterior angles. Remember, all exterior angles add to 360. So all of this needs to add to 360. So we have x plus 15 plus 106 plus 2x minus 35 plus x minus 10. All of that is equal to 360. So let's calculate out our x's. So I'm just going to get out my calculator and do this. So I have 1 plus 2 plus 1. Well, that's going to give me 4 x's. Then I'm going to calculate out my number. So my calculator, I'm going to do 15 plus 106 minus 35 and then minus 10. So when I subdue all of that, I end up with 76, and that's equal to 360. So now all we have to do is solve this simple equation for x. So since the 76 is being added, I'm going to subtract 76 from both sides, and then I get that 4x is equal to 284. Next thing I want to do is to divide both sides by 4, and then I get that x is equal to 71. So x is equal to 71. Okay, so that's my final answer for part number 5. So let's take a look at number 6. So for number 6, what we're going to do is we are going to calculate out the slope of each of these points. So let's start by doing QR. So remember, for slope, you need y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. What I want you to do is write that formula down on your notes one so you have it for when you're taking the quiz. So, I'm sorry, we need to calculate out. Yep, we need to determine the slope. Okay, so for our QR, we have y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So here I end up with 3 over 3, which is equal to 1. So the slope of QR is 1. Let's take a look at TS. So that's going to be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So here we're going to get negative 3 divided by negative 3, which is 1. So the slope of TS is just 1. Okay, so let's take a look now at RS. So for RS, we're going to do y2 minus y1 over oops, I did x. So we need to do, come on. We need to do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Well, here we get 0 on the bottom. Now remember that 0 is undefined, so the slope of RS is undefined. Let's take a look at, now we need to take a look at QT. So for QT, we have y2 minus y1, that's going to be a plus a positive, over x2 minus x1. So here I get 5 over 0, which again is going to be undefined. So what I notice is I have two sides that have the same slope and two sides that have the same slope. So that means that each of those sides are parallel. So these two sides are parallel and these two sides are parallel. So yes, this is a parallelogram. Okay, let's take a look at this one. Given the quadrilateral below is a parallelogram, find the values of x and y. So if it's a parallelogram, the opposite sides need to be congruent. So that means that 7x has to equal 56, and 5y minus 26 needs to equal 4y plus 4. So this one's a pretty easy solve for x. We're just going to divide both sides by 7, and we get 8. Here we want to add 26 to both sides. And then we get 5y is equal to 4y plus 30. Then we want to subtract 4y from both sides. And then we get y is equal to 30. So for this one, y is equal to 30 and x is equal to 7. Let's go ahead and take a look at that back page. So we want to figure out if these are a parallelogram. Okay, so we know that we have the same length on these sides and they're parallel. Remember, there's a theorem that says if two sides are the same length and they're also parallel, then yes, it is a parallelogram. Okay, so you can just say that they're parallel and have the same length. For this one, okay, we know that these two lengths are the same, and we know that these two lines are parallel. Well, that doesn't tell us much, okay, because we don't know that these themselves are the same length. So no, that's not parallel. Okay, let's take a look at number 9. So given that the quadrilateral is a parallelogram, find the values of x, y, and z. So remember that diagonals bisect each other. So each of these diagonals are congruent to the other side. So for this one, 3x minus 6 is equal to x plus 4. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's solve that for x. So let's go ahead and bring this x over to the other side. Since it's positive, I'm going to subtract it. And then I get 2x minus 6 is equal to 4. Then I'm going to add 6 to both sides. And I get 2x is equal to 10. Divide both sides by 2. and I get that x is equal to 5. So x is equal to 5. Now we want to go ahead and calculate out our z. So our z, opposite sides also have to be parallel. So 5z is equal to 35. Divide both sides by 5, and I get that z is equal to 7. Next, let's take a look at this. Now here we have two parallel lines, and then there's a transversal that's cutting them. So if we look at 5y and we look at 60, those are actually alternate interior angles. So they have to be equal to each other. So 5y has to equal 60 because they're alternate interior angles. Then we're going to divide both sides by 5, and we get that y is equal to 12. Oops, so y is equal to 12. So I put z. That should have been z. Flip-flop those. So y is equal to 12 and z is equal to 7. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to have you guys skip number 10, and you can also skip on the quiz as well. I'm not going to grade that one because we didn't really talk about it in class. Last but not least, let's take a look at number 11. So for number 11, we want to find the value of each angle. Well, these two angles are congruent and these two angles are congruent. What I notice is that these two angles right in a row need to add up to 180 because they're actually consecutive interior angles. So x minus 5 plus 2x plus 11 needs to add up to 180. Well, x plus 2x gives me 3x. Negative 5 plus 11 is going to give me 6, and that needs to add up to 180. So now I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides, and I get that 3x is equal to 174. Divide both sides by 3, and I get that x is equal to 58. So x is equal to 58. All right, now I know that much. Okay, so now to get angle G, I need to take 58 minus 5. Well, 58 minus 5 is 53. So we're going to put that for G. We want 53, and for D, it's also going to be the same angle because they're sitting across from each other. Now, to figure out angle F, we need to plug in here. So I have 2 times 58 plus 11. So you can just punch it into your calculator just like that, and you end up getting 127 for angle F. And likewise, H also has to be 127. So that concludes your note video. So make sure you understand, if you don't, try and rewatch a portion, and then you can show the sub when you have the review done, and they will hand you the quiz. Thanks for listening.